What happens when the world gets turned on its head? We're forced to look inward, perhaps become fearful, sometimes lash out at others. While there are others in the world who don't give up hope because they believe in people. Join me, Kevin Tibbles, and Amy Goldberg for our new podcast, Believe in People, where we meet those who don't give up hope. When it comes to music and the music industry, there aren't many people who can compete with my pal, David Fishof. He's an encyclopedia. He's a promoter. He's a friend to the stars. And above all, a lover of music.
David is also perhaps the oldest camp counselor in the world. Yes, David now runs the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, where would-be rock stars gather with real rock stars to learn and jam.
And in fact, Amy, I was a camper myself in New York a few years back.
Artists love to give back. They realize their success is based on the fans. And that's how I came up with the idea of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp.
Well, David, welcome to Believe in People. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, man, it's so great to be reunited with you and to meet Amy. Make me smile.
Let's start off just by asking a question about music. How long have you been in the music industry? I mean, you started as a kid in a band.
I would say 17, and I'm going to be 67. So
there you go. Do the math.
Wow.
Wow, that's a long time. And then yet, viewers and listeners, David started off as a sports agent and transitioned into being a music promoter, which is fascinating. And he's the son of a cantor. So I'm like, there's so many questions to ask. I'm so excited. So David, how did you transition from a very well-known and well-respected sports agent to the getting into the music industry, apart from your love of music?
So it was while I was doing the sports. I was representing some amazing athletes, Phil Simms, quarterback of the Giants, and I had many of the offensive linemen and 8 of the Giants, and Lou Piniella, the Yankees, and it was wonderful to be a sports agent. But I was losing the creativity of really what's inside of me, and because if you see the movie Show Me the Money, that's what it's about, being a sports agent. So when I got the opportunity to represent the association, the Turtles, and the Grassroots, and then I started doing the Monkeys, and then eventually I transformed into putting together Ringo's All-Star Band, and then the players started to retire, and I wasn't getting new players. I just said, you know what, let me go full time into show business.
You talk about putting together things like Ringo's All-Star Band, and I mean, I do know for a fact you had to tour with them because Ringo insisted that you be there when he was touring and things. What kind of stuff goes on behind the scenes that people like me just have no idea what's going on?
Well, first of all, I when I put these tours together, you're right. I didn't go out all the time. I'd go out a few days here and come right back. But I remember meeting the late, great Bill Graham, who was the probably one of the greatest promoters in the world ever. And he was a waiter in the Catskills. And in 1986, I rehearsed the Monkeys tour up in the Catskills. And I got to spend time with him. Yeah, Bill Graham. He went back every year to the Catskills to eat pickled herring and to hang out with the waiters that he grew up with. They were the waiters. So, he became the biggest rock and roll promoter. And so I got to meet with Bill. And I remember one night, he said, come meet me in the bar. Let's have a drink. And I turned to him, and he had a few in him. And I said to him, so what do you do for a living? He said, I'm the Rolling Stones tour manager. And I said, but you're Bill Graham, you're my idol. I said, yeah, I know, but who else going to tell Mick Jagger to get the F on the bus? So that's when he taught me that you better go on the road with your artists. And And then when I put Ringo's band together, and he reminded me that remember you told me you're going to be with me, and I said yes. I said, but that's agent talk. I don't go on the road. And he said, well, I need you out here. And he really was right. I was thinking what Bill Graham said. When my show's in Detroit, when my show's in Chicago, when the All Star Band is in Des Moines, Iowa, that's where my business is, and that's where I had to where I had to go. I had to be on the road. What happens? Oh, so many crazy things happen. I think the funniest thing happened to me was I was a square kid out there on the road with these folks, and I had mortgaged my house because when I put Ringo's All Star Band together. I'm a promoter. That's what we do. We take chances all day, and we don't play the market. God forbid. No, no. We take chances. And I'm backstage with talking to the president of Radio City Music Hall, and I said to him, Ringo wants to play Radio City. What do you think? And watch the show tonight. I think it'd be perfect. And next thing I know, Clarence Clemens, who was in the band, late Clarence Clemens, walks by my table and he says, David, I've had enough. I'm going home. This is not for me. I said, well, what's going on, Clarence? He said, there's too much fighting going on in this band you put together. I created this all-star band with all these amazing musicians. And people told me it was never going to work. It would work for a one-time, benefit concert. You can bring all these people together, but to go on tour with all the different leaders of different bands and expecting them to be peaceful, it's never going to work. And then a second later, Nils Lofgren, he walks by and he says, David, I'm out of here. So my heart left me. All I could think was my house going down the river, in the Hudson River. And really, that was the thought, And so they said to me, you better go and you better, see what's going on. And I said, what's going on? I said, well, Levon Helm and Joe Walsh are having a fight, and they're fighting over a song. Get together. So I decide I'm going to go down there. First of all, let me go find Ringo because, it's his band. Let him break up the fighting. What am I going to do? I'm 10 years younger than these guys. I'm the last thing that they're going to listen to. I walk into the security guard. You better go. It's get in there. I walk in there and Levon Helm. He's got a knife in his hand and blood all over his face and his hands. Joe Walsh, he's got a glass bottle and broken, and he's got blood, and they're cursing at each other, and they're saying, you ruined my song and this and that. And next thing you know, they pushed me, threw blood at me, and then they both turned around. They stuck their tongues out at me, and they thought it was funny. They thought it was funny, but they had nothing else to do with the world. Let's do a practical joke against David, So I love it. It made the film, and
that was your initiation, David. That was your initiation.
That was my initiation. Let me tell you something. Joe Walsh and Levon Helm were my initiation into rock and roll. There's no question about it. Once they did that to me, then I really learned what rock and roll was about.
And so, David, to that point, okay, this is what I find fascinating. So you have this, and for viewers and listeners, it's this secret sauce that is elusive for you. I mean, you need to have possibly family support because you're on the road and you're, with these rock stars that sort of no holds barred. Then you went from sports to promoting so what is that vision David Geffen, you were the playbook for David Geffen, I think, for packaging, for talent. So what is this secret sauce that you have, or this creativity that is so, can you grab it? Like, what is it for you?
Not David Geffen, but it's more like these festivals today. And I don't want to be here to take credit, but I was the first one to put together 4 bands like Happy Together, 4 or 5 bands, and tour them and tell them to only play hit songs. That I'm going to take credit for. I mean, Dick Clark, he used to take a bus caravan of stars, but I actually took bands on the road and created these tours that telling them to only play to only play hit songs. And there were the Happy Together tours. And where this came from was when I was working in the Catskills. And we used to go to comedians. I worked for a company called Charlie Rapp, and he'd go to comedians like Henny Youngman, and he'd say, okay, I'm going to pay you for 50 shows. I'm going to book you in a bungalow colony, which is a place where, it's a little Catskill place. We saw Dirty Dancing, to a hotel. You're going to open for Tom Jones one night. You're going to play a bar. And I'm going to give you 50 shows during the summertime, and you're going to work these places. So, Henny would open up for Tom Jones at the Concord, and then run over to a little bungalow colony and do an act. So, I saw packaging in there, and that was really my thoughts for putting all these bands on the road together.
Before we get into talking about the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp and the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, the movie, I'd be interested in knowing, David, what did you get out of that for yourself? You said that earlier in the sports marketing, sports agency business, your real inner soul wasn't receiving what it needed. What were you getting out of promoting rock and roll?
Passion is my number one thing. So like when people ask me, "Oh man, aren't you upset you're not a sports agent anymore, and these guys are making hundreds of $millions of dollars?" I love watching the sport, but I lost my passion, and I think that's really the story behind me is passion. And I even lost passion to go on the road and not working in the All-Star band. I lost passion. When I lose passion with something, because family is important to me. I got married and I have 2 kids, and I just said, I had 3 previous children, 3 kids from my previous marriage, and I just said I want to be around the kids and be able to do homework with them. So that led me not to go on the road anymore. So what moves me is passion, and to this day, I have to say it's the number one thing. And I will elaborate a little bit more. During COVID, when the live music business was basically shut down, we didn't have jobs. No one got to work. I created a Zoom program where people could talk to rock stars and campers and producers, and they could call in and talk to these rock stars. And we had everyone from Styx to Roger Daltrey to Joe Elliott, you name it. I had an amazing amount of people, 160 classes. The common denominator of every one of these people that we interviewed on Zoom was passion and the song. 2 things.
Passion and the
Passion
song.
for the song.
So David, what's your passion right now?
Okay, so my passion now is rock camps, because I literally found a way to change people's lives through music, slowly but surely. But that's really what I do. I mean, and what keeps it going is I wake up every morning with a new idea for new camps. So I get to do something new and fresh all the time. So, this weekend I'm doing Phil Lesh of the Grateful Dead. I never did a jam band camp. I woke up this morning and said, this is going to be fun. I'm not a fan of the music, but I'm going to get into it and I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to be able to hang out with these people and just understand what makes them tick. I mean, just like Kevin, when he gets to do a story all the time, he gets to research it and then he gets into it. So I think that, to me, it's creating a new camp. And after that, I'm going to do a Beatles versus Stones with Chuck Leavell and Ace Frehley and the Kiss, and then I have from Wilco and Nels Klein. I mean, I'm putting all these artists together, 80 campers coming, and in the end, I'm going to change these people's lives, and not only the campers but the rock stars. So when the guy like Phil Lesh comes to camp this weekend, and while he thinks he's coming and just going to jam with these bands and get a paycheck, I guarantee he walks away, he's going to get affected by jamming with these campers.
Yeah.
Well, that is my next question, and that is that we are all aware of the persona of the long black limousine, the guys in the back, often doing things that are probably illegal, but they are standoffish. A lot of them won't give you an autograph for the time of the day. Why are these and we're talking big Roger Daltrey, you mentioned, Nancy Wilson from Heart. I played with Dickie Betts when I visited your camp. I mean, that was like playing with my hero, for crying out loud. Why are these people coming to your camp? They don't need to teach campers. I mean, what are they doing there, and what do they get out of it?
So I have pictures. If I have pictures on them, I automatically get them. No, seriously. And
That's it. That's it.
That's the secret sauce.
That's the secret sauce. Okay. So let me tell you, it's the hardest thing to get people to come and jam with these people. I mean, it's first of all, it's taking them out of their comfort zone. It's a lot of work because, they're used to doing the show and they know exactly the song list, what they're going to do. Here's what they get out of it. First of all, so when they come to camp, the first time I have to admit, I have to, pry to come there. And in the beginning it was really hard. But when they start coming back, like a guy like Joe Perry's been back 4 times, Roger Daltrey 8 times, Stone Temple Pilots coming back for the 4th time. Obviously, there's something they're getting out of it. Simon Kirk, they're getting something out of it. You're right. What are they getting? So what they're getting is it reminds them what it was like when they first started. And so I mean, that's what I heard from Roger Daltrey. I heard from Nancy Wilson. She said, David, she said, when we first started in the music business, it was about the music. And then once we made it, it became about lawyers, agents, managers, disagreements. Your camp is pure music. So Joe Perry, he's one of the sweetest guy in the world. He comes back to camp because he feels something. And I remember he wrote me a thank you letter. Oh, Tim Thale from Soundgarden. He's coming to my next camp. I was telling someone yesterday, he wrote me a 2-page letter telling me how amazing the experience was. And he only asked him to come for 2-3 hours. He stayed for 3 days and he hung out with all the campers. Nick Mason also hung out for 4 days with all the campers because he wanted to play other people's music. Everybody gets something else out of it, but they definitely walk away with something out of it or they wouldn't do it.
You said Nick Mason?
Nick Mason from Pink Floyd, when he came.
Nick Mason?
Nick Mason from Pink Floyd. He's the richest. He's the richest rock star. The guy who's smart. He invested in planes and cars. And Nick Mason came to my camp, and he stayed for 4 days. And he said, "Call me. Do you mind if I write an article in GQ magazine about it?" And I said, "No, not at all." And he wrote a beautiful expose. He saw these people, trying. It's not a meet and greet. They're really playing the music and it really does have Sam Hager says in the film, he says the hardest thing I ever had to do. But Slash, I mean, I asked him to come for 2 hours. He stayed for 12. He jammed an hour with each band. Once they're there and they start playing music, they put on their pants like we all do, and they love playing music.
The fact that you're bringing so much joy to the campers, and not only in that moment or the experience, but the fact that they're leading up to. So I saw your film, and I just, for the viewers and listeners, because I know what they're doing, they're taking like, what, band camp, what? So share with them what exactly it is. And then just a couple of amazing magical stories of the campers, because they are so inspiring. I cried, I laughed. It was a great film.
We could have picked 1,000 campers. They all had a story. They all had a story of passion or a reason to come. And the stories are just unlimited, but they come to camp for 4 days. We, place them in a band with a like-minded band, like-minded counselor, people on their level as best as you can. Kevin, you get the call, he can only do an hour to film the TV, so we got to put him in a day before. But those people, they stay there the whole time, and they're preparing songs. And I think that what they're going through is really a life-changing experience, because what happens is their lives, it reminds them what it was like when they were children too. So I did a program that changed my life, and I try to really copy what I learned. I did a thing called the Hoffman Process, and I don't know if you heard of it, but it's really amazing. Hoffman Institute. I went away for 7 days and no phones, everything, just focused on me. And I really try to, tell my campers, shut off your phones, just get into this. And eventually the years start coming back and the happiness starts coming, because not only they're jamming with their idols, but they're playing songs and music. And it reminding where they were when they were in first grade and before they had any issues that they had to work about and worry about, and family, and just have fun for themselves.
You have a favorite song?
I want to know where love is. I guess, Lou Graham.
Yeah, that's a
Really?
great song. That's a great
I just
song.
love. Oh no, okay, that song, and then the other one is for Mike and the Mechanics on the Living Years. And I had a beautiful relationship with my father, so it was really the opposite. That song could make me cry. The Grammy Award winning The Living Years. And I tell you something, I had I'm in London doing a camp at Abbey Road Studios, and the fellow who sings that song, oh man, I can't forget. He was the lead singer of Mike and the Mechanics. I'll think of it. And a lady was coming to camp. Oh, you told me camp stories. I forgot to tell you camp stories. And this is a story. And this lady, she was telling me that she doesn't talk to her father, and her father's best friends with Nick Mason. That's how I eventually got Nick Mason. But she's never talking to her father again. And I called up the guy who sings that song, and I said, "You got to do me a favor. Can you come speak at camp tomorrow? I'm doing this rock camp here." And he came. And then I said, "Will you sing the song to this lady?" And he sang it to her, and she cried. And then at the end, she called her father, and they reunited. And her father told Nick Mason the story about Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, and that's how I got Nick to come. So that's a great story. I mean, the stories are incredible. I mean, from a guy stopping me on the street one day and saying, "Mr. Fishof, I just got back from Russia." I said, "What happened?" He says, "My band opened for Aerosmith." "Your band opened for Aerosmith?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "I was at camp 3 months ago, and I wrote right after camp. I wrote to the manager, Joe Perry's manager, and I said, my band has a lead singer lives in Moscow, and could we be possibly considered to be the opening band when Aerosmith's going to be in Moscow in 3 months?" And she said, "Well, send me the CD." Sent the CD, showed it to Joe, and she said, "You met this camper in a rock camp in Foxwoods," and he said that he wants to open. He said, "Let him open." And the guy opened for Aerosmith. I mean, stories like that, people meeting their wives. It's everyday stories, and really miracle stories, miraculous stories. And there was a camper once who I walked into a room, and he was writing lyrics to a song, and Rudy Sarzo was his counselor. And Rudy said to him, he wanted to write a song about his son was driving in a car and was drunk, and they both died, son and his best friend. And the guy came to camp, and he wanted to write a song about it. And he goes and writes the lyrics. I walk into a room, and I introduce him. I see this guy there, and I'm showing Roger Dolce around the studios, and he's writing the song, and he's telling us about the song, and he doesn't realize it's Roger Dolce next to me. Roger is much shorter, and he was just focused on the song. Roger walks into his band about an hour later, and he tells the story. "I wrote the song. Would you sing it with him?" Roger grabs him, hugs him, and says, "Let go, let go, let go." And he held the guy for like 5 minutes, and the guy said it was, he learned to eventually let go. And I mean, you see such emotional stories at camp, and you see fun stories, and so it's quite interesting. It's a magical place. It really is a magical place, and it's not because of me, but it's because the combination of the rock stars with their fans.
Hmm.
Wow.
And the film is an extension of that.
The film's an extension. Jeff Rowe and Doug Blush, Jeff Rowe worked at VH1 for many years, knew my brand, called me up one day and says, "Hey, I want to do a documentary on rock camp." And I said, "Okay, great idea." I said, "I don't want to be in it." I said, you could do it and tell the story about the kids and about the adults, not the kids, tell the adults and some kids and tell the story of the rock stars. And there's enough material here. And I don't want to be in it. And, when I was around Ringo all those years, an interview would come in and he would say, give it to Nils, give it to somebody else. He always wanted to push everybody else, and because he wanted to be part of a band. And that's really where I am. Last thing I want to do is let it be about them. And then after 2 years of them writing the film and trying to get it done, they interviewed a guy from Disney. He said, "Where's David in the film?" And he said, he doesn't want to do it. He calls me up. He says, "David, you have to be part of this film." And I said, "I'll do it on a couple conditions. Number one, I want my parents, and I had my conditions in there. But, and thank God, the film came out great. We just got back from Columbus, Ohio, and we won a film festival there. And it's been fun. It's been fun.
And David, oh, sorry, go ahead, Kev.
No, go ahead.
We're so Canadian, Kev. Sorry. David?
Camp in Toronto.
Yes, I know you're in Toronto.
Wow. David, we ask our guests every week why they believe in people. I mean, we have an idea as to why you do, but just if you could articulate that, why do you believe in people?
My dad was a Holocaust survivor, and he survived Auschwitz and Buchenwald. And every year I read a book called The Yellow Star that was written by one of his bunkmates in the Holocaust. And these five guys from a city called Bratislava get caught in different places, and they meet in the bunk in Auschwitz. And it was their story about survival and how they survived. And my father survived because of his humor, his friendship with these five guys. They kept observing their Jewish holidays, whether it was the Hanukkah, and they found oil. Or my father said, I got on the floor and I found cigarette butts so that I could make cigarettes, exchange flour, so I could make the matzah on Passover with water and put it on top of a plane factory in Buchenwald and celebrate the holiday. And I said, wow, imagine these guys, they still had belief in God, and they still believed in the religion, and they believed in people. And they had to keep warm, so they had to hug each other every night and sleep in the same cot. With a cot, they would sleep in barracks. And I love people, and while I'm not a musician, I really dig people. I dig people that are cool and they're honest, and that's really a lot of amazing people out there, and I learn from them. I have to say, I suck in everything I can especially from these rock stars. They have so much. They've been around the world, and they've seen everything. And I wrote a book years ago called Rock Your Business, and it was everything I learned from being around these people. And they're all like 10, 12 years older than me, but they've experienced life a little bit more than I have. So you can learn a lot from people. And the campers are great.
Just before we let you go, because our time's almost up, but I have to ask, first of all, it is great to hear you talk about the power and the healing power of music, which is what you are all about, and what everything is all about. But
it is amazing. If I'm not in a good mood or something, just put it on the Spotify and find the music you like. I mean, we're so lucky. Yeah. Music is so powerful.
Now, everyone's going to be asking Amy and I this. So before we let you go, what is Ringo like?
Again, I met him. It's open. He's on a 12-step program. First of all, I think the thing I admire most about Ringo, 12 steps and is great for him, and he's a real believer of that. I think what I love most about Ringo is his marriage to Barbara. I mean, he's so dedicated, and I was divorced, and I saw his marriage to Barbara and his dedication to Barbara and her dedication to him. And that's really what motivated me to get married again. I said, I can get this. I can get this. And you've got to put the work in. And I think that to me is the most remarkable thing about him. And also, it's not easy being a Beatle. Everybody wants your picture. Everyone wants to grab at you all the time. And like you were saying earlier about these rock stars, they run out of the venues. No one gets to meet them. And, that's what makes Campy unique, because no one really got to meet these rock stars. The country people, Kenny Chesney, I love my people. I kiss them, I hug them. They come to my bus at 5:00 and, before a show. And, and the country people, they love their people and they hug them. The rock stars, they run away from them. So, but going back to Ringo, I think what I really enjoyed was watching his marriage to Barbara, as being that he's a Beatle, and his love for his children, and his priorities in life.
Yeah.
Thanks, David. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Oh God, Kevin's one of my favorite people. I'm gonna.
I know.
I love Kevin.
He's adorable, isn't he? He's just so adorable.
He's adorable and he's so real. He's so real. And I remember his first appearance at Rock Camp and him smiling and coming out of there. And I appreciate our friendship and love to see where he is all around the world. I'm sorry he retired, but I guess he's happy.
He's not retired.
You're right.
He's doing this.
I guess I haven't retired, David.
I wouldn't let him.
Retire.
I said, okay, as soon as he retired, all right, Kevin, we're doing this. 38 years we've been friends, David. And it's like, all right, dude, we're doing this.
Kevin, I'm going to leave you with this story. My father was 80 years old and he was a cantor and he made $10,000. He goes to the president of the synagogue and he says, my next contract, you're going to negotiate with my agent, my son, and he's going to represent me. And they all knew me around the Giants and everything. He said, okay, have David call me. And I call a guy up and he says, come see me, David. He says, we can't afford the cantor anymore in the synagogue. You know, we're a poor synagogue. And I said, stop right here. I'm going to write you a check for $10,000 and you'll give my father your 10 and his 10. And, you keep him going. He doesn't want to retire. He loves working. It's the most thing that what keeps his mind going, his voice going. I go home. He says, okay, David, that's fair. And I go home and I see my mother and my father. My father walks in. So, no, what happened? What happened? I said, Dad, I doubled your salary. He yells at my mother in Yiddish. He said to her, he said, I should have used them all the time to do my contracts. So I saw the power of not working and not giving up, of keeping your mind going. You know, that's what's great about Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. You know, unlike these baseball camps, these guys, they show up at 45, 50, they can't hit the ball of the fence. Mick Jagger is still going. Ringo's still going. McCartney's still going. The Who is still going. You know, it's that love that it's the love of people. It's love to entertain people, whatever it is, and to have an effect on people's lives. So this is great. You know, Kelly, you're still working on it. You're going to effect on people's lives, and that's really what it's about. You know, my favorite saying is, in 100 years from now, won't make a difference how much money you have, what kind of car you can drive, but only in what you've done in the life of a child. And so, strip it all away. That's really my goal in life.
Thank you.
So true. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for having me.
All the best.
Okay, all the best. So thank you. Come to camp, Kevin.
I'll see you down the road.
You come to. Okay, promise me. Okay, thanks.
Well, Kevin, you know what really inspires me? With David, it reminds me of that motivation starts within us, that, no matter what, he saw not only opportunities, but he opened his eyes to the possibilities. He transitioned from sports agent to music, and he doesn't even play an instrument, but yet he just saw something, and really he likes the connection. And he's doing this to connect rock stars and us, us mere mortals, to be able to jam and be inspired and empowered. So he's really something. I don't think he realizes how empowering he is.
He believes in people. You said that. And the history of his family and the terrible travails of his father that his father went through. And then despite all that, he tells us the story that not only his father, but himself believe in people, believe in the power of people, and obviously the power of music. And believe me, if he's promoting Aerosmith, then he will have had his eardrums blown out by the power of music. And if you believe in people, well, then this is the podcast for you. Please subscribe to Believe in People and listen to us. And we'll see you again next week. Thank you.
Thank you.